Hey guys, this is Merrick. I wanted to show a basic fast expand build really quick. I'm doing this game specifically against an AI right now because I was just showing the build to a friend with this recording, but I wound up doing it pretty well, and it winds up showing a good idea of how you would do a fast expand into hedgehog map control into a fast third versus infernal. This is my first patch playing the beta, but I have been informed that hedgehogs have been nerfed since the last patch, but they're still a good option because of their speed to be able to take map control because they can kite pretty much everything that infernals have. It makes them very hesitant to push out, and if they do, you can kind of just bleed them out as you retreat back to your side of the map. It's a very easy opener. You just queue up 3 Bobs off the bat, and then once you get to about 56, you can actually start another Bob then, and then as your Bobs are running down, you will overcharge and make the command post. If you make the Bob before you run them down, you will be able to continue production throughout, but I messed this up a little bit, and it's probably one of the only mistakes I made with this exact execution. You want to rally the workers from that command post to the Luminite, and you want to put the command post on the left side by the woods, because then it allows you to put a sentry post up that'll cover all of your workers and make it very difficult for them to try to all in. You can always Bob Overcharge and commit to a fight, but if they want to try to harass, that sentry post will do a much better job at defending it than putting it elsewhere. I also put my barracks and such on the low ground here. I would not actually recommend doing that anymore. I've since learned a better wall off that you can do that I will show later on in the video. But for this portion here, I was trying to see if I could wall off between my command post and my natural ramp, and I would never really get it done in time before any of the pressures hit. It did help to limit the ability that they could run around, but it's not actually all that necessary, as you can just put the sentry post behind the Luminite and then wall off at your ramp so that they can't just run up into your main. I learned that wall off from the StarCraft player Probe, who does actually a Rax fast expand, and I absolutely have to give him credit for that. I'm going to be covering his build with his permission, but he also is going to be making YouTube guides, so be sure to look out for his videos as well. Some builds recommend putting a Bob or 2 on the Therium as soon as you put down the barracks. I have found much more success taking 3 Bobs after I finish the barracks and putting them on the Therium then. And it's definitely because I have tested it and have been efficient, and absolutely, definitely, totally, completely not because I just keep forgetting. When you're putting on the Sentry Post, you want to put it approximately where I put it. You can put it directly up against the Luminite, which might feel like it's better and going to cover more things, but it's actually just going to block your Bobs from mining and will just reduce the effectiveness of your expansion. The reason we put the command post here as opposed to diagonally is because while diagonal might look nice and might help with walling off, if you put your bases diagonally from the Luminite, the Bobs actually mine roughly 25% slower. So from here, you should be scouting with your scout, making a lancer to put inside of the sentry post, and potentially even a second lancer if you're going to be walling off, because while I said before, I fucked up my wall off here because I just didn't know it, I have since learned a much better way to wall off, and with a second lancer, you can completely block anything but Bobs from going up your ramp, while still allowing Vulcans and other units to come down later, so long as you move the lancer. I initially went to go put a barracks down, then I remembered I was showing my friend a versus Infernal build, so I quickly dropped 2 Mech Bays because that allows you to put out 2 port of hedgehogs, which quickly gives you map control and can pressure a lot of things, and it's very nice to have hedgehogs to scout the map, especially if your first scout goes down. You only need 1 Bob on the Therium to afford a single amount of hedgehogs being produced out of 1 Mech Bay, so having the 3 earlier on allows you to get both Mech Bays up, afford 2 hedgehogs per rotation, and still allow you to build up Therium to get your level 2 command post. But once you hit saturation on your Luminite, you should be adding those excess Bobs to your Therium anyway, or rallying them down to your natural, depending on what exactly you're going for. But you're going to need the Therium anyway to get the tech you need between Mech Bays and the biokinetics upgrades, so it's not a bad idea just to make sure that you put those on your Therium. It might look like I'm floating a lot right now, but I'm making sure that I can afford both of these hedgehogs, and then as those hedgehogs go into production, I'm going to be moving to take a third at about 430, which is still a pretty fast third. I didn't stop making Bobs until right there when I put down that extra command post, and even then it was only a momentary skip as I immediately queue them back up. But here you can have hedgehogs coming out to help with any of these later pushes that aren't like the immediate rushes. You have the lancers and potentially a wall off to deal with any sooner rushes, and it puts you in a good position so long as you can hold on to be set up properly for a macro game. It can be kind of awkward to transition off of the double hedgehog, but it's easy to keep hedgehog production up because they don't cost a whole lot of Therium as you saturate your third, add some extra barracks, and then as you get into tier 2 and expand your Therium mining, expand from using those 4 hedgehogs into Vulcans. That's it for the opener. It's not a perfect opener, it does have its weaknesses, but if you were trying to go for a fast third that will also allow you to put some pressure on the map, this is kind of what you would do. Again, the hedgehogs have been nerfed, so it's not as powerful as this build would have been last patch, but I wasn't playing last patch. I'm just combining a few things that I learned from a few different builds into one somewhat effective build. I'm sure there are better builds out there. Here I'm jumping to yet another custom, but this is a more recent one where I actually learned how to properly build this wall off at the ramp. So we've just finished our fast expansion. We now have the money to actually put up a barracks, but rather than putting it down on the low ground next to our command post, I'm going to put it on the second floor here. You want to make sure that the middle of the barracks is aligned with those 2 protruding notches, essentially, and then on the left side of the ramp, you want to make sure that the habitat is immediately below that 1 notch, and that there is a diagonal space between the 2 buildings. At least 1 block and a diagonal will equate to 2 blocks, which can be hold positioned by a Lancer, but will also allow a Vulcan to move through so long as you move the Lancer out of it. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit after I show the exact positioning of it, and you'll see that I try to run my doggo past my Lancer, and it doesn't work out.
Awaiting further instructions. It's going
It's a little early, but I'm going to put this here. You want it to be diagonal with 1 space.
bot activated.
As you see, with the Lancer on Defend, which is this game's hold position, my doggo cannot run past the choke point there into my base, which means that if you were to have to deal with this kind of a pressure, instead of them just being able to run past your wall into your base and start fighting at your main, they either have to fight at your natural, which you have a turret on, or they can waste time attacking your barracks, allowing you more time to produce units and respond to the push, rather than taking damage from it immediately. And I'm also going to jump way farther ahead so that you can see that a Vulcan does fit through that choke if there is not a Lancer there to block it. Reminder that this is more just a framework than a hard and fast build. You can adjust the gas timings to go for bio as opposed to going for a double Mech Bay play. We are not always allowed to publish recordings, and it's just the recording that I had available to me was one where I was trying to show my friend a build that I was using to get map control from some Inferno players. So it has come to my attention, after recording the other half of this video, that both of these ramps are not the same. But you still can wall off, and I'm just confirming really quick that this does allow a Vulcan to walk through with this setup, and also it definitely blocks a scout. It seems like the difference between this is that this space you can wall at the top of the ramp, whereas here you have to wall on the ramp. So again, obviously you can't get the doggo past this wall, and the Vulcan can just walk straight out. So I'm quickly going to show where these were both built at, and then that'll be that for this video.
Got an itchy trigger finger.
Again, credit to Probe for figuring out this wall off. I'm just showing that I didn't realize these were on the same side and how to get it done.
Awaiting further instructions.
So on the other base, you had to go kind of like this, where those 2 notches were what you would line up with the center of your barracks. Here, you need to put this whole ass thing on the ramps. And then similar to that, on this side, you would do the 1 notch there would line up with the side of your Sentry Post, which would give you a diagonal 1 across. Potentially, you could actually do it like this, because that would still be a 2 space, but I did it like this, and this is how I know for a fact that it works. While I have time here, I might as well go see how that works, though. So that's how to place these 2, and I'm going to see if this other variation of this will also block. Just to confirm, while this is salvaging, defend, can't walk through, can walk through. This salvages. Let's try putting it up here like this, because that does still give a 2 space opening. Defend. Oh yeah, that would also work. Defend, cannot walk through, can walk through. So that's 2 different places you could put the habitat on this side that'll wall off, whereas on this side it's a little bit more lined up because you have the
Awaiting further
you have the 2 notches here to show you where to put the middle of the barracks, and then the 1 notch here to show you where to put that. You could be a different configuration or a slightly different one, but the important thing is to make sure you have a 1 slot diagonally or a 2 slot horizontally or vertically, so that you can fit your bigger units through, and that a Lancer can also stop on a defend. Thanks for watching this far into the video. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying Stormgate, and hopefully I'll see you next time.